Energy Matters with Stuart Dolby. Energy Matters, Mirador Television. From the White Hart Hotel in Lewis, Energy Matters. Energy Matters with Stuart Dolby. Energy Matters, Mirador Television. From the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, Energy Matters. got to unmute this microphone. I always forget that. Welcome to Mirador Television on the the 5th day of August, 2022, and we on the last day of the present series, if you want to call it that. We're going to take a 2-week holiday. We are planning to come back on the 22nd of August with some new programs, some new ideas, some new thoughts. You name it, we are thinking about doing it. And here he comes, the Max, ready to give his controversial views. He hasn't got Stuart to bully today. So we'll have to see how feisty he can get with me. It's a funny old day, and all I can say to you is that the war with China is now being spoken openly. You heard Melissa Conte last week say, why aren't we alert to this threat here in the United Kingdom? Well, you hear it first all the time. You hear it first on Mirador.
Well, actually, me and Stuart were arguing about war with China the other day. He said, "Oh, it's never going to happen. They're always just saying this, blah blah blah." I'm like, "No, I think you're underestimating China. I do think they're going to take Taiwan. I do think there's going to be a war." And what do you know? A day later.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I haven't actually gone into detail this morning because, believe it or not, just the time that we're in one war, whether we like it or not, we're in the war with Russia and Ukraine, and we're about to get involved in another by the look of things. The world is going to pot, and so is the country, because our newspaper headlines this morning is all about the fact that we're going to hit a recession, right?
You know what we need during a recession? War. That's what we need during a recession. That's going to help.
A war?
Yeah, well, that sure will help.
Actually, the funny thing is that normally you're quite right. I mean,
I was being sarcastic. What do you mean I'm right?
I
was being sarcastic. How am I right?
How are you right?
Yeah.
Well, of course, the fact is that the big recession in the States was in the 1930s, and they entered war in. They were preparing for war, the late 1930s, early 40s after Pearl Harbor. And of course, they go back into production, and suddenly, because we're turning out arms, everybody's got a job. In fact, more than everybody. That actually signaled the turn of women expecting not to be at home cooking the food, but going out to work. Right, okay, so the Bank of England warns of a long recession as interest rates rise by 0.5 point. Now, 0.5 point, another 0.5 point is, a 1/4 point is a lot in bank terms, and so a 0.5 point is a lot. The UK economy, the Financial Times is saying that Britain faces a protracted recession with the worst squeeze on living standards for more than 60 years, following the bank's move to raise interest rates. It says the economic downturn is to last 15 months, with inflation set to hit 13%, and says the outlook is worse than for the US and the EU. Well, we're sucking the hind tit again for some reason. Don't ask me why. The Times, it's Britain slides into crisis. Once again, economic gloomy news. The country is facing the worst squeeze on living standards for more than 60 years. It describes the Bank of England's forecast as drastic, while economics editor Mahreen Khan says we must get used to the grim new reality, with the economy set to shrink by 2.1% by the end of the year. Wow.
What in 5 months? 6 months, sorry.
In 6 months, yeah.
It's going to go down to.
Yeah, by the end of the year.
No, we're in the 8th month already. It's
Well,
It's
we
all
are.
good.
Well,
That's crazy.
in 4 months, yeah. But I mean, actually, if we're in this dire state, you're going to see the effect right now. In fact, we already are seeing the effects, I think.
I've been going on about this for a while with the economy, because I remember like first being on the show, we went through a bunch of statistics from the Daily Mail saying percentage of how much things have gone up, and I said all of this is rubbish. It's all a lie, because I actually go to the shops. When my mum does the weekly food shop, I always go with her. I've been keeping track of these prices for quite a while now. They are going up dramatically. They're not going up by 10% or whatever inflation is right now. It's not 10%. It's more.
Well, I think that they've always admitted that it is with foodstuffs, and you're quite right. I mean, I shop at as little as possible, but I shop at Waitrose, and what was their pound specials are now their £1.25 specials, and I mean that's a 25% rise.
Have you seen the pound? Have you been in a pound shop in the past year?
Oh no, that's somewhere. We don't have a pound shop here, so I don't really.
Brighton, I guess.
Eh?
Well,
yeah, go on.
One, but everything in the pound shop, the majority of the stuff is more than a pound.
All right. So you can't. The pound shop is a misnomer now. Yeah. Daily Telegraph: the recession will cause a record drop in income, brought on by rising energy prices. It quotes the Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey as saying families face a very big shock as interest rates were, excuse me for the hiccups, interest rates were raised to 1.77%, the highest since 2008. 2008, of course, being another financial crisis that we steered through. Yep.
Yeah. Banker who's running out of credit.
Right.
Inflation set to hit almost 7 times. What?
Inflation set to hit almost 7 times his official target. Critics accuse Bank Governor of being asleep at the wheel. Now we face a year of recession and soaring interest rates. Well,
he wasn't asleep at the wheel. He was just lying. He's a banker. What do you expect?
but it is. The basic job of all central banks is to keep an eye on inflation and to tinker with interest rates at the appropriate time. And he didn't. There is no question that he didn't. When you and I even were seeing the signs, he wasn't, or in self-denial or whatever.
It probably seems a little bit conspiratorial of me, but I just don't see how all this can be an accident. I mean, they printed in this country billions of pounds. They know exactly what happens when you print money. They knew this was going to happen the second they said, yes, let's print lots of money. Let's print billions. They knew it would happen because it happens every single time.
Well, you're absolutely right. Printing money does not solve anything.
Yeah, if I, an 18-year-old, can understand economics better than one of the highest bankers in the country, I mean, that's not possible. So clearly,
well, it does look as if they were sitting crossing their fingers that something would happen to avoid this issue. But what does the Daily Mail say? On the future of Mr. Bailey, describing him as a banker who's running out of credit. The paper says the bank has faced a ferocious backlash, with its governor forced to deny he had been asleep at the wheel. Metro, the big squeeze, the biggest loan rise since '95 as bank predicts recession. Number 10 rivals TV battle over how they'll fix the economy. Yeah. I tell you, whoever gets in is going to have one hell of a job if they plan to try and fix the economy, because it is the perfect storm, as it were. Everything is hitting at exactly the same time and causing huge problems. The big squeeze. Yes, indeed. The Eye uses the same headline alongside a striking graphic, which shows the rising inflation rates. The paper says a leading economist has declared it the worst day for the British economy in my lifetime. Wow. There we are. I mean, we've been predicting this crisis on this television station.
I've asked you this question before, and sure, and you both said no. I want to re-ask it again. Do you think we are heading to a worse recession than in the 20s?
Well, no, I don't recall saying no to that, but I think I would actually say no. However,
so you don't think it's going to get as bad as it was in the 1920s?
Well, of course, in the 1920s is the bottom dropped out everything. I mean, the absolute bottom. That's why people were throwing themselves out of high rises in New York. And also, as the one paper points out, is we are if you'll excuse the expression, sucking the hind tit. The EU isn't in as bad a shape as us, and the United States isn't as in bad a shape as us. So what we're going to experience is rather worse than the rest of the world. Now, although we're the fourth biggest economy in the world, as goes America, so normally goes the world. So I think really, when it'll be interesting to talk to Melissa this morning, I think a lot of how bad it will get will depend upon the United States. So I hold my judgment. I'm not saying that it won't get worse than the 1920s, but once again, it was the leading economy, which America was beginning to take over from us as the leading economy of the time, and that's where the whole thing really started. The Guardian: bank raises rates and warns of 13% inflation. So the Guardian says Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine has left the UK on course for a recession.
Vladimir Putin did this, of course.
Sorry?
They say Vladimir Putin invasion of Ukraine has left the UK economy in a course of recession. That is just not true. It's blatantly not true.
Well, no, I'm sorry, but the war is bound to have an impact. Well, I'm not saying that it's the sole cause, but it contributes.
No, I know you're not.
I'm not what?
I know you're not saying that. I'm saying the Guardian is.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, its front page is dominated by a striking picture of a man standing on a house roof in front of a wildfire under the headlines, "The Burning Issue." The paper carries a special report on extreme weather events. Oh dear, it's keeping its eye on the weather as well. It is actually a summer of discontent. Is quite often happens. The weather has an impact on that too. If you have a steaming hot summer where tempers start to get frayed because we're all get hot under the collar and sweating and so on and so forth, we couldn't ask for a more perfect situation for crisis.
Surely that would be the opposite way around, because if it's really hot, more people are going out and spending money.
Well,
that would be the opposite way around.
Even when you go out, I mean, you're a sun lover. You go to the beach. There's an awful lot of us who start to feel the sweat around here, and our tempers get very short. The Daily Star has a typically light-hearted take on the gloomy stories. It says the bad news is the country is going into recession. Inflation is heading for over 15%. Mortgages will rise. The lights are going off. Water is running out. And now we face war with China. The good news is Premier League football is back. Always look on the bright side of life, it says. Frankly, I could care less whether Premier League football is back at this stage. How about you?
No, I don't care about the football.
Yeah.
That's all.
I mean, the only thing is that in many ways, football might well act as indeed the games with gladiators did in Rome. When the corn shortages in Rome, the Caesars used to put on lavish games to take their mind off the fact that they were starving. Right. Okay. That is where we're standing. Today is going to be a shocker again. It's going to be 25 degrees, a very mild breeze, no sign of rain, and indeed no sign of cloud today. And I look out onto the high street and I can see the courthouse across the road is bathed in light. So here we are, the summer we've been praying for. And when does it come? When we're all in all sorts of trouble.
Pass me the newspaper, please.
Will I pass you the newspaper?
I haven't started even looking at it.
Yeah. Now, here we go. Right, let's just take a pause after all that. Let's go down to the park. Unmute the mic. That little thing should have gone on for hours and it didn't. So we'll remove it from the studio. Max is actually looking through the papers to see what's on the inside. In the meantime, I think it's time for us to invite Melissa. Hopefully, she will be getting out of bed and. Now we've got it. There we go. She's got a new email, so we've got to make sure we get the right one. Okay, so hopefully Melissa is going to join us, so we can get the American perspective on everything that's happening.
Yeah. Well, there is stuff on China in here. There's quite a bit actually to talk about. There's quite a bit in the papers to talk about, but the first one is an interesting one. Very surprised about this. One-legged man, 93 years old, dies after being tasered and pepper sprayed by police in row at his care home.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
So he, presume, had some sort of heart attack after being tasered, as any 93-year-old person would.
Yeah.
Where do you think this took place?
What do I think?
Where do you think this took place? I
don't know where.
East Sussex.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
In Leonard-on-Sea.
St. Leonard's-on-Sea. Just along the coast?
Yeah.
No more than 20 miles from here?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be damned. Katie Bourne, I think, is the Commissioner of Police. I expect she'll have some questions to answer. That's a bit frightening.
Who tases
a
93-year-old man?
Yeah. But do you know something? I really fear for the morality of our society in the establishment. Those people who particularly didn't suffer in lockdown and during the COVID crisis, the banks and the retail financial sector are just awful. They bully. I mean, they say great things. We are with you. We're by your side, and so on. But they don't. They bully elderly people over a late payment. I mean, they really do. They bully, and I maintain it's because they now rely upon computers. I think there's an entire shake-up that needs in our society to get away from one-liners. We are for you. We support you. We look after the elderly. We look after society. We are great at this, that, and the other. And it's all BS. Because once you scratch the surface, they're not any of them. The fabric of corporate Britain is thin. I think it was somebody on Facebook posted yesterday the amounts of money that all the financial geniuses and the facilities people are getting as their salaries. And they are millions. In one case, one energy company is paying a bonus to its CEO of $6 million. That's a bonus.
That's a really nice bonus.
I mean, that's incredible. And while I'm not a great leveler, I don't have any sort of socialist tendencies in that sense. As I do believe that people are worthy of their hire, but by the same token, sorry,
I said, and they're not worthy of their hire.
Well, they're not worthy of their hire. The fact is that all these people have contributed to some extent and continue to contribute to the mess that we're in. I mean, even who is going to pay for 80% of their staff costs? Who is going to pay? They knew who was going to pay. And now the piper is coming along and we're all having to pay the tune. But corporate Britain grasped this with glee. And so did the workforce. Hey, I'm being paid 80% of my salary for doing what? Going to the races. Well, there were no races.
Sitting at home and doing nothing.
But that's right. Exactly. I have to say that I was one of the few that wasn't. I didn't get anything from the government at all.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't get anything?
Don't get anything.
Why was that?
Well, because there were 3 million of us, small to medium size enterprise entrepreneurs. And the way that it worked was you got paid if you were an entrepreneur.
Right.
And I actually, by the time that I paid all my bills, I wasn't showing much of a profit at all. So my taxes were relatively low. And that meant that I didn't get anything once the old thing hit the fan. And there are lots of us like that, lots of us. In fact, there was a society was set up to represent us, and nobody listened. Nobody listened at all. And actually, we are the people who are taking the kicking at the moment.
And you are probably the most important for the economy, small businesses.
Absolutely. Our economy is built 90% on SMEs, small to medium enterprise.
So that's why it goes back to what I was saying earlier, a bit conspiratorial, but how can that all be an accident? They knew if you guys are some of the most important people, the small businesses, why would they ignore you? Well, unless it's a purposeful thing. That's the only reason I can see.
Is it? What? Sorry.
That's the only reason I can see.
What was the reason?
They were ignored. Okay, let me repeat that. I'll start from the beginning. I'm again more conspiratorial, going back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
But I think that was on purpose, ignoring you, because why would they? They know that your type of business is the most important. Small to medium-sized businesses.
Right.
Why would they ignore you if they know that you are one of the most important businesses out there? Small to medium-sized businesses. Why would they do that?
Well, I mean, you ask a very good question. I mean, part of the reason is that governments are terrified of big business. Corporate bosses, and particularly bankers, the banking community and the financial community, call the shots because they've got the power. I mean, the amount of money that sloshes through London in a day is almost the amount that sloshes through our own economy in a year. I mean, they have huge, huge power, and governments are terrified of upsetting them. So when the big boys said we need looking after, the government looks after them. I mean, it's not quite that simple, Max. Nothing is quite that simple. But essentially, that is part of the underlying reason. And now we are paying the piper. We are indeed paying the piper, and it's very sad. Very sad.
So one of the reasons that the business shut down for a bit wasn't just because of COVID; it was because of the government not giving subsidies, and you couldn't keep the business afloat.
Well, it is.
Was that another one of the reasons?
Well, yeah. I mean, it is a combination. There is never ever one single reason. But morning, and essentially, the corporate Britain continued to want its profits, continued to want to make money, and I am damn sure that when it saw the opportunity and the government saying we'll pay you to keep your workforce and so on and so forth, which they didn't. I mean, the pubs are a classic example. I can't go into any pub now and see the people who had been long-standing employees of pubs. They're not there anymore, but they were paid 80%. So during that period, what they were doing is they were finding other work. While, as I say, we were left struggling.
So you weren't given anything. Were your staff given 80% of their salary?
Well, we don't have staff in that sense. So in our case, no. But we had 6 permanent people on contract, and they got nothing either. Well, because they're classified as freelancers, small medium enterprise. The government. Look, I've been hammering on about this for years. The government made a deliberate policy of trying to persuade young people in schools to actually become entrepreneurs. Go out and get your own. Yeah, right. You. Is what they didn't do is they didn't say, look, this is a parlous road to take. That if you actually something goes wrong, there's nobody there to help you. There's no safety net. You're on your own. And I think it's iniquitous that so many young people were persuaded, because at the time it looked great. The economy was buoyant and so on. There seemed to be work to go around and so on. For instance, the other thing that we do in Mirador is we do training. And we were doing it in London. We subcontracted to an organization in London who brought in people from all over the world to be trained. We provided the training. And the moment that this COVID hit, it all wiped out. But there was no compensation, no consideration for us or our trainers. That was it. Sorry, chaps, we persuaded you that this way of life is a great way of life. But now there's a crisis. We're not going to look after you. We're not going to pay you any attention whatsoever. I mean, well, do governments ever do anything sensibly? I mean, it's sad, but
well, we've got some other stories.
Yeah. Okay.
Putin loses his first female army chief in missile strike.
Sorry, can you read that again?
This is on the war in Ukraine.
Yes.
Putin loses his first female army chief in missile strike.
Ah, right. Now, which side was that? Ukraine or on the Russian side? Female chief of where?
Of Russia.
Right, Russia.
Of the Russian army.
Right, okay. So it's lost its first leading a female.
Yes.
Right. Does it actually give you an update on the situation in Ukraine? Because I find it keeps disappearing and disappearing and disappearing into the depths of newspapers, and and so on. I have no idea whether the Russians are continuing to making insurgencies or whether they're being pushed back or.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't tell us there, right?
But here's the thing with the Russia-Ukraine thing. People sort of stopped really caring as much as they did when it first started. I think the media did the exact same thing that they did with COVID. They pushed on it so much and so much and so much. Oh my God, look at this thing that's happening. Isn't it so terrible? Yes, it is terrible, but you've gone on about it so much, no one cares anymore.
Yeah, well, everything, there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, there was a great flood of support for Ukraine, and Lewis supports Ukraine, and we're actually doing. And you don't hear much about it at all now.
No, I mean, COVID went pretty quick as well with the people caring. Obviously, people still care about COVID, and obviously, people still care about Ukraine. But the media harped on about it so much that everyone just went, "Okay, whatever. I don't really want to hear about this anymore."
No, quite. All right. Let's. Well,
what are you looking for?
Let's just take a pause here. See if we can find anything that's worthwhile. Well, what we should do is let's actually prepare people for what's coming up in the next 2 weeks. Mirador Television is taking a holiday break from Monday the 7th to Monday the 22nd. We'll be on holes, dipping our toes in seas and shores unknown, having hopefully a rollicking time until we return in August, the 22nd of August, with new programs, new ideas, new people. Still broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewis. We look forward to joining you again after the holiday break. Until the 22nd of August, toodle toodle pip. So there we are. We are going on holiday. He's bugging off.
I'm going on 2 holidays, actually.
You're going 2 holidays. 2 holidays.
Well, they're still in the country. I'm going to Cornwall for a week, coming back for 2 days, and then going up to Suffolk for a week, about a week, 5 days.
Yeah.
And then coming back on the Sunday, and then I'll be back here on the Monday.
Right.
From Mirador.
Now, it's for a variety of reasons. You haven't travelled extensively, have you?
Yeah, a variety of reasons. I don't own a passport. I've never left the country. Never even been to Scotland or Wales. I do travel a hell of a lot, but local areas.
Yes, but have you been to Cornwall before?
Never been to Cornwall.
Right. Okay. So, what are you expecting in Cornwall?
Nice sandy beaches. That's what I saw some pictures of when my family went on holiday last time. I wasn't able to go, unfortunately. But we're going to the same place, and it looks very, very nice. We are getting a house on the side of a cliff. It's lovely, and you can walk down. It's a long walk to the beach, even though you're not that far from the sea, because you've got to walk down the cliff face. You have to find somewhere to walk down, but it's nice sandy beaches, but there's apparently a lot of jellyfish, so you can't quite go in the water.
I'd heard that jellyfish. The last time I was in Cornwall, no, it's not the last time, but the only time I spent any time at all is I was your age. In fact, I was younger than you. So I assume that things have changed since then.
I've never been. Probably not, actually. Everything's probably still the same. I mean, I think, 60% of the properties in Cornwall are second homes?
Yes, that's true.
I mean, culturally, probably things haven't changed. It's probably the same as here.
Right. Yeah, the issues of low-cost housing and all the rest of it aren't quite as important as they might be elsewhere. And then you're going up to Norfolk.
Yeah, my grandparents, they live right on the border of Norfolk and Suffolk. They're very rural. They live in a very small town. It's a big in area, but there's only 200 people that live in the village. It's very nice.
Right. Okay. Well, I've been to Norfolk as well, but that was 20 years ago. I like the solitude of Norfolk. You can walk along the beaches, and there are lots of nice little towns. And the pubs were terrific, but whether they still are, because one of the big changes that I've noticed in our society is the pub. I was walking along Lewis High Street yesterday, and there was a chap who is he's got some physical limitations. Let's put it that way. And he was hobbling along, and I said, "Oh, Dennis, how are you?" And he said, "Oh, fine. I'm going up to the pub." And he said, "But there aren't too many people there anymore from the old crowd." Now you could pop into this particular pub at any time of the day or night, and you would find a certain element of people to chat to. That has all changed. And whether that's true of the pubs in Norfolk, I don't know. But I found them just delightful little pubs, just lovely little pubs.
You know what? Actually, despite sitting where we are, I've never actually been to a pub properly for drinks.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to fix that if you're going to be in this business. Most of the work is done in pubs.
Oh yeah, especially here.
Well, I mean, the old days of Fleet Street is, and actually there was method to the madness, because when you think about it, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about a big newspaper like the Telegraph, for instance. They can only afford so many staff, and they can't cover all the big news items on any given day. So what would happen is that rather than we hear about the scoop and how the competition for newspapers, well, some of that was true, but also in the old Fleet Street, the reporters would get together in the pubs and they would swap stories. What did you cover today? I covered this. Right, give me the details because I need to know. What did you cover? I covered this. Give me the details. So there's a lot of, and the reason that we have such a good press, good media, was because of this sort of a friendly competition. And that took place mostly in the pubs on Fleet Street. Of course, in 1980, 1980, yeah. Yes, 1980, when Margaret Thatcher took on the Fleet Street unions, is everybody moved away from Fleet Street down to Docklands. So the situation has changed. And I think that probably the great days of getting together in the pubs has gone. And social media will have done some of that too, because it's too easy now to have a chat on social media rather than over a pint. Sad times, I think, because I loved those days. I mean, the difference now is, for instance, I worked for Reuters. And they owned a company called Viz News, which was the television distribution arm of them. And there was in the building that Viz News was located, they had a club. And at lunchtime, you could pop up and you could have a pint. And you would say to the cutter, that is the video editor, here's a story, here's the video, please cut this together according to instructions. And if you've got any problems at all, get hold of me in the club. And the club actually had a phone directly from the cutting rooms, the video editing rooms up there, so that you could, the cutter, as he was known, the video editor, was able to phone up and say, Keith, this is what I've done. Do you think, I hit a problem, or did you mean? And I didn't have to put my pint down. No such things anymore. They're a rarity.
Yeah.
In fact, the unfortunate thing is that some management in media sneer at those days. The fact is, the golden age of journalism, and the standard now is very, very poor indeed. But there we are.
You can
it's sad.
remember. You can remember back when news actually used to be news,
Yes,
and
that's
not
right.
just opinion pieces and celebrity gossip.
Indeed. But you see, nobody reads that stuff anymore. That's the trouble.
Yeah. People want to read this gossip.
We have got out of the habit of reading, and one of the things that I see that Liz Truss has said that she'll take on the woke brigade if she becomes prime minister. But the fact is that the sort of people that don't mind wokes or even sympathize with them have actually started to change the language. So the most obvious one is LOL.
Is what?
LOL after anything. Nobody knows quite what it means. It's either lots of love, lots of laughs, lots of something or other. But I mean, instead of spelling it out, is and there are so many. Right?
Do you know what it stands for?
What does it stand for?
It actually stands for laugh out loud.
Laugh out loud. Right. Okay. There we go. You see. And not only is it destroying the language, but also nobody knows what the hell it means. There's so many different people.
Even I hate like when people do the abbreviation text, like SMH or LOL or something. I can't remember, but they always confuse me because I always have to look them up because I don't even know them sometimes. I'm like, what is that?
Well, I mean, it's your generation, and I have to say that. We let's see if we can find whether we can.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for. I sorted out some programs last night, and of course the trouble is I don't know where I put them. It always seems very logical when I finish, and then I actually forget where I've put these things.
Well, they have something here on China and Taiwan, so this could be interesting. I mean, we were only talking about it on Wednesday, me and Stuart. And Stuart was saying that, China isn't really a threat. It's not a big deal. They're not going to invade Taiwan. They've been saying this for years, which, they've been saying this for years. It's true. But it really does look like they're going to do it. It really does. And Russia has said that if China starts a war with Taiwan, that Russia will fight with China. So that would be...
Yes.
That would be bad. That would be...
It would indeed. And I mean, that is frightening, to say the least. It's...
You really have lost everything.
I really have, yes.
Why don't we just go back to one of the old ones?
Even looking for the old ones, I'm trying to...
click the X button at the top of the screen and retry.
Click that?
Yeah, get rid of it. And
right, okay. All right. Now, where do I go from there?
Just the same.
Go to share?
Yeah.
Yes. And video file.
It should open up on the right one. There you go.
Right, okay. All right. But that's not quite what I was looking for.
I know, but I said go back to one of the old ones.
Yes.
You're struggling to find them.
All right. Now, where are the old ones?
That right there on your screen, right in front of you.
Right in front of me. Yeah. No, that was one I put together last night. Yeah. But tell you what. I tell you what. We have just been talking about pubs, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Here's one on the Brewers Arms, which was done just before lockdown. Just before lockdown, to show you what pubs were like. Let's take a look at that. I think that would be... It would give us some idea of what the thing is all about. Lewes is known for its independence of spirit. Many attribute this independence to the fact that American revolutionary Tom Paine lived in the town. He lived and worked in this building, which was a former pub. Right next door is another ancient pub, the Brewer's Arms, affectionately known in Lewes as just the Brewers. There has been a pub on this site since the 16th century. A list of landlords from 1744, when records began, hangs proudly on the wall. The present building was erected in 1905 on the original site of the old pub, called the Ship. The Ship was a pub that lived through a glorious drinking tradition in the town, when it was graced by 9 breweries and 63 drinking establishments. That number has now been reduced to 15, while the number of breweries is reduced to just 1, the much heralded and successful Harvey's Brewery, which is first recorded as producing beer in 1790. Many of those 63 pubs have now disappeared, or have been taken over by big pub chains or major brewers. Perhaps because the independent spirit of Tom Paine has permeated the building, or perhaps because the Brewer's Arms is so very well managed, the pub has remained independent. Business heroes of Lewes are stamped with the brand Independent, and the Brewers fits that mould exactly. In 1994, Kevin Griffin took over the pub and has proudly continued the free house tradition ever since. That independence is not likely to disappear. Kevin's family now run the pub, and it is firmly established as a family-run drinking establishment. His attractive and charming daughter Kathy is usually the first person a customer sees as they come through the door. Her welcoming character and warm smile greets both locals and visitors who enter through that front door. Helping her at the beer pumps is her brother Liam, who co-manages the pub with his sibling. The pair have continued the inn's traditions as well as the excellent management style set by their father, to establish the Brewers as a firm town favourite. In addition to making the Brewers a splendid pub, Kathy's husband Paul turns out a first-class menu in the kitchen. Trained at Brighton Catering College, Paul marshals his cooks each day to provide taste-bud-tempting meals, available from 11:30 until 8 p.m. There is the favourite staple fare of beer-battered fish and chips, lasagna, sandwiches and burgers. But Paul has maintained the tradition of good English food with daily specials of pies, stews, rabbit, poultry and other wonderful recipes. At the bar, tradition is maintained with a range of Harvey's beers, from bitter to winter warmers. But the spirit of independence flows through this lovely pub, and microbreweries are well supported. Exotically named breweries such as Burning Sky, Dark Star, Long Man and Hopback turn out ales with exotic labels such as Hop Smack, Hop Head and Summer Lightning. There are 2 bars. The front lounge bans the use of fruit machines, jukeboxes or television sets.
We consider the family atmosphere the most important part of this pub. The front bar has no music, so it's very much for conversation and people meeting and chatting. It's a very good place for people watching, and I learn something every day, whether I want to or not.
The back bar makes up for that with big screen TV, music and traditional games such as pool and darts. The esoteric Sussex game of Toads is also played here, and there is a team in the local league.
Yeah, we feel it's important to have the 2 contrasting bars. It gives the customers a choice of what sort of atmosphere they'd like. This back bar tends to be the louder of the 2, which has the pool table, the television and the jukebox.
The pub has a strong relationship with local sporting folk. Every Saturday, the Grass Bowls team piles in from the nearby greens to raise a glass to victory or drown their sorrows in defeat. Like the pub, the bowling club is unique. The greens are ancient, laid on the old castle tilting grounds, where knights in armour knocked one another off their horses with lances.
The bowling people come in every Saturday morning when they've been playing at the old bowling green, which is the oldest in the country, and you can always tell whether they've won or lost from their faces before they even get to the bar. Over the years, we've been headquarters for many different organisations. We have lots of sports teams, and also the Church Wardens of St Michael's used to meet here many, many years ago.
Like most pubs, Sunday lunch is a favourite, and this bar is jammed with diners, regulars and occasional drinkers who drop in for the traditional English roast and a pint. Yes, the Brewers is a very special pub. It's independent, it's family run, it's steeped in tradition, and it has great food and drink.
I've been coming here for years. In fact, I predate Kathy and her family as a regular. With the good food, good service and good company on offer, I think I shall be a regular for a good few more years to come. Keith Hayes, South Downs Television, The Brewers.
Didn't actually mute. There we go. Okay, so it's just me for now. Keith is off making a phone call. But nevertheless, I'm going to do the stories still. So we have here one story from the Express. Hot weather in the UK. Map shows super heat wave to return to Britain with 40 degrees blast in days. It says here that the temperature could reach 44 degrees. That's 110 Fahrenheit. That's pretty hot. But it's set to come within the next week, in the middle of August. Let me have a look here on my weather app. Yeah, so it's looking like middle of next week, or the end of next week, which is perfect timing. I'm going on holiday for that week, so I'll be spending a lot of my time on the beach in Cornwall. But yeah, once again, 40 degrees for the second time this year. It'll be the hottest ever in English history since records began, I have to say. But yeah, once again, really, really, really hot. So I'm personally looking forward to it, but I know a lot of people aren't. Usually the media go on about, oh my goodness, look how many people died during this heat wave. I never saw anything about that when we had the last one, when it hit 41 degrees a couple of weeks ago. I never heard anything about that. Usually they harper on about that. Obviously they're harping on about the wildfires and whatnot, but it doesn't seem like anyone actually died from the heat, which is a good thing. But there was a lot of warning beforehand saying that there was going to be extreme heat. But yeah, 44 degrees potentially. That's that's unbelievably hot. We have a story here from The Guardian. Source of the River Thames dries out for the first time during drought. And you have a picture here of the source of the River Thames, and it's completely dry. That's concerning because there are a lot of boats that use the River Thames for shipping straight from the centre of London. What else do they say here? So it's now more than 5 miles downstream is completely dry from the source. And it could get drier over the next week. So as heat waves are, I'm not sure what that word says, but because heat waves are coming. We didn't have any rain last month. We had 1 or 2 days of rain, and that was it. We didn't have anything, which was unusual for this country because it's England and it's always raining. There was another story I had, but I seem to have lost it. It seems to have disappeared. That's unfortunate. Let me go to break because it was a good story. So let me just put on Garden Park whilst I try to find this, so you're not in complete silence. Okay, so I have here. Well, welcome back for first before I get into anything. So we have here from the Daily Mail a story about Taiwan and China. If you remember, on Wednesday, me and Stuart were here. We were talking about Taiwan and China, and we had a good discussion about it. He said that he doesn't think China's gonna take Taiwan. They've been doing this for years. I mean, that part's certainly true. They've been saying we're going to take it for decades. They've been saying this. But what they did yesterday was quite unbelievable. China unleashes its power is the headline here from Daily Mail. Worldwide outrage as ballistic missiles fly over Taiwan. And they have a diagram here of where they ended up. I'll show you, but I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it. So I have a diagram showing where everything went. So let me just explain some of the stuff that went down. They launched seemingly 6 missiles. 3 of them landed off the coast of Taiwan. There were quite a few, it doesn't say how many, but I can see there's quite a few planes that went over Taiwan, Taiwanese airspace over the water and land. Some of them went quite far inland. And quite concerningly, 3 of the missiles landed in not the Taiwanese Sea, but what is the Japanese Ocean. So Japanese people have claim to that ocean, and 3 of the missiles landed in Japan off the coast, which is very concerning because their missiles can certainly reach Japan, and China's missiles can even reach Europe, and in one case America, which is very concerning. The range of some of their missiles can go up to 3,400 miles. That is hard to comprehend how far that is. That's 3 times the length. It's got to be 3 times the length of Europe, and that's long. That's more than the length of America. What else do they have here? So they had tanks on the beaches of Taiwan, which is very concerning, and ships off the coast of Taiwan that were launching these missiles. These missiles weren't nuclear, but they have the capability to be nuclear, which is also very, very concerning. I personally think China is certainly going to invade Taiwan within the next 5 years. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was even in the next year, really. But everything seems to be escalating worldwide. Wars with important nations, not just desert countries, places like Russia and China and and Taiwan is actually where a lot of our chip manufacturing comes from, so that's very concerning. War in Europe is going on now, which is the first time in a very long time. I mean, the last time would have been Northern Ireland, but that wasn't a war particularly. That was the Troubles, classed as a war. So the first time in a long time we've had war in Europe. And then we're also hearing about the economy. It's going to crash. We're looking at a recession, is what the papers are saying. They're only announcing this today, actually. They're calling it the big squeeze. They're only announcing this today, but we all know this was coming. We all knew. No one is reading these headlines surprised. I mean, I think it's me being a bit more conspiratorial, but I think they did this on purpose. I really do, especially with the economy. I think they did it on purpose because they printed billions and billions and billions of pounds. I mean, the bankers know exactly what's going to happen when you do so. Every single time in history when we've printed money, it's gone terribly. We've had massive recessions. I mean, look at Germany in the 30s and the 40s. They printed a hell of a lot of money. You needed a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a loaf of bread. Zimbabwe was one of the worst. They have $1 billion notes over there. That's crazy. What else? Venezuela. I mean, every single time a country has printed money, it's gone terribly. But they know this is going to happen. So why did they do it? It's not incompetence. They know what they're doing. If I, an 18-year-old, can figure out and just say, hang on a minute, look at all these other times in history, obviously this is going to go bad. If I, an 18-year-old, know that, these bankers who get paid millions obviously know this too. That's why I say I think it's purposeful. I really do. Because how can they do this by accident? It's just ridiculous. It seems like they're trying to wipe out the currency for some sort of great reset, I suppose. And then war as well. That will wipe us out. And then we can have some sort of global reset of some kind, is what it's seeming like. There were some more stories from behind the headlines, but that was the one on China and Taiwan. Very doom and gloom, unfortunately, today, but that's just the news recently. Well, we'll go back to another break whilst I look for the second story I had. So I'll play this. All right, cool. We're back from that break. So I have a story here from Guardian, who I don't particularly like. Two more rail unions have joined the strike across Britain this August. So just so you know, if you didn't know, for the next month, the trains are on strike every Saturday, once a week, on every Saturday, to cause the most amount of trouble for us. Two more rail unions have joined this strike. Unfortunately, the Guardian article doesn't say what members they are, what companies they are. Reliably, Southern Rail aren't striking. They didn't strike last time, and neither did, I don't think Thameslink did, which is luckily the two trains I need to get, Thameslink and Southern Rail. So those are the two reliable ones, and those are the ones that go through where I live. So that's quite lucky for me. But the train drivers are once again on strike. We were talking to Melissa Conti last week, actually, and she was saying that strike should be a last resort. Every time she's been to this country, the train, probably just a coincidence, but every time she's come to this country, the trains have been on strike, which is quite amusing. But I mean, they're always striking, and she said striking should be your last resort, and she's absolutely right. It should be. And you know what? From what I've heard, from just word on the street, people talking to one another, people are really getting sick of the railways and the rail companies. I am. Unfortunately, I have to get them, but there's this push to get public transport at the moment. Get public transport to help with the environment. Which, sure, I've been getting public transport a lot for work, but they're so unreliable and always striking. I'm just going to have to start driving to work. I've bought a motorbike, and I'm going to have to start driving, which is going to be worse for the environment. But it's because they're unreliable. They're on strike. I can't keep relying on them if they're just going to mess around with these things. It's quite concerning, actually. So, yeah. So I'm going to be after driving here, which I don't mind. I like driving. Quite like cars, and it's relaxing. But yeah, to help the environment, I could get the public transport. But as I said, they're so unreliable, you just can't trust them. Which is a shame. Which is a real shame. But I had another story here. So yeah, they're striking every Saturday this month to cause the most amount of pain, I guess. We spoke about the UK's hot weather we're going to be having. Every story here just seems to be about the heat wave that's coming. Tory leadership race. Okay, there we go. There's something just as fun. I'm being sarcastic, of course. Tory leadership race. Rishi Sunak wins over audience in battle for number 10. He isn't in the lead in polling, but he did win in this debate in polling. But overall, in general, Liz Truss is in the lead. Rishi Sunak only has 32% of support among Tory membership. And it's looking like Liz Truss is going to win the Tory membership, which is, I'll be honest, the least worst out of the two options. But Keith is back.
Right. Well done, Max. The complications of modern life is I've got trouble with my phone, which I hope that Max will sort out a little while. But I didn't think I could take calls. And I have every 3 months, because I've got Parkinson's, I have a consultant who calls me and chats to me and sort of says, "You're falling down in the gutter. Is it booze or is it Parkinson's?" Well, not quite that bad. But I was able to take, because Max was able to sit in and keep things going, I was able to take the call and have a chat. They don't have to actually dismember me for the moment. I've got another 3 months grace. So thanks for that, Max. Well done. I'm sure he kept you mightily entertained and informed. So where are we?
So spoke about there's a massive heat wave coming. Apparently next week it's supposed to get to 44 degrees.
Wow.
Which is 110 Fahrenheit.
Absolutely. That's that's it won't be that much here, will it?
No, yeah.
No, but nonetheless.
No. There's going to be
in Lewis.
In Lewis.
Wow. That really is roasting. Really is roasting.
Well, the hottest place in the country is London because it's a city, but it's only about 1 degree difference.
I think what we're going to have to sort of do this program from the pub. I think
we are doing it from the pub.
Well, we are actually, yes.
Yeah. Well, I think we could if it gets to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 44 degrees. Maybe we'll think about doing a broadcast from home because that is far too hot to travel.
You're absolutely right. And
I will have a conversation.
No, we'll figure it out, but we'll see what the circumstances are to begin with.
Actually, no, the heat wave is coming during the break.
Well, that's helpful, isn't
Next week,
yeah.
yeah, which is very helpful. I'll be on the beaches of
Cornwall. Down in Cornwall, yeah. It'd be cooler in Cornwall.
No, it's still the south. So it'll be just as hot, really.
Right. Okay. Now let's see. You keep talking while I see if I can now wade my way through this maze of.
What time? Do you know what time Melissa is coming on?
No, I've sent her the link. She normally comes on about 10 o'clock, I think.
Oh yes, yeah.
So. We need to.
Oh yeah, I went through the story of Taiwan, Taiwanese and Chinese potential war. Went through that in depth. Actually, did you hear some of the missiles landed in Japan?
The last time or this time?
This time, like yesterday.
Oh gosh.
It actually landed in the sea
in Japan. Yes, so Japan have always worried about that. They also worried about it from North Korea, and it's.
To be honest, I don't think North Korea is that much of a threat. I don't think their missiles actually work.
Famous last words.
What else? Other stories back here. Well, what do you? 44 degrees. What are you going to be doing in that heat? Probably staying at home.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to sit and look out through my balcony, my French windows, and have a little chat. I'm really having great difficulty here, and I sorted it out last night, so I knew exactly what I was doing.
Have you forgotten where you put it?
I've forgotten how to get there. Yes,
that's the thing. That's the issue with organising. It's all nice and organised.
Yeah.
Before it was a mess, everything was.
Yeah. Actually, I think that perhaps we might have more. If we just go to the old desktop
trying to find some other stories here.
Well, there's some of them,
oh, perfect! You found them.
Well, now here is this is a very long series, but what we'll do is we can cut it into bits. Let's take a look at the first 5 minutes of this one, shall we?
a mix of emotion, got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist.
Paul Miles is the authority on Tom Paine, not just in Lewis, but throughout the English-speaking world. What he doesn't know about Tom is not worth knowing. But he does have other little tidbits tucked away as well.
Yes, the book I spent 10 years intermittently, it's intermittent research, so I was doing other things at the same time, but I couldn't let it go after I was made director of the Tom Paine Festival in 2009, celebrating 200 years of his life. It was 200th anniversary of his death actually, but everyone wanted to do something in Lewis about that because he lived here for 6 years. And so I was appointed as festival director, and it was my duty to mount a 10-day exhibition of his time, of celebrating his time in Lewis. So it was quite a difficult thing to do actually, because up until that point, very little was known about his time in Lewis. In fact, it turns out very little was known about his time in England before he left these shores from Lewis in 1774. He departs. He arrives in Lewis in 1768 to the shores of America, clutching a letter of introduction from the great Benjamin Franklin. So we did find out some things, and we wrote a little book. I co-authored, I published, edited and co-authored with Dr. Colin Brent and Deborah Gage, who's a direct descendant of Sir Thomas Gage, who was Commander-in-Chief at the time the British lost America to the War of Independence, as it were. So three points of view. Colin deep in as much as it was known then about Lewis. He's very the local eminent historian. Me, just come off a degree in psychology, so I had an inquiring mind. I was trained at the time to inquire, if you like, in a forensic way. And Deborah, who writes a very good essay about her ancestor, and is included in the book. So, but there was a missing bit. Was Paine wrote the case of the officers of excise while he was here, and 4,000 copies were printed of that. And all the accounts were that he was rabble-roused by members, other officers. He was an officer of excise here, and he was rabble-roused to do this thing. But a member of the Thomas Paine Society, just deceased, had written a little book some years before about this, where he claimed Paine couldn't possibly have done that. Actually, he probably couldn't do it now. Get the signatures of 3,000 officers of excise on a petition and write this case, which is the argument to laying out the corruption within the excise service and the way their wages have been frozen for 100 years by law, and they observed the inflation, the rise of money in the country, like a map of Peru, Paine says. So anyway, the signatures were missing. And I started working with the university on this, and we digitised the local newspaper, and I used to take students under my wing and go to the National Archives and fish around in the treasury boxes with uncatalogued material. And I found some signatures. I found 2 lots of signatures from officers predating Paine's writing of the case by 4 years. And so there were clues were starting to, this was a very important clue. Clues were starting to emerge, but it was quite difficult to put it all together. And I had to put it to one side for, because I couldn't quite see the picture. And it was only actually when I gave up the doctoral study, because that didn't seem to be getting me there. It was too wide a thing. I wanted to do this specific thing, how did this happen? And it was only actually by writing it the story came together in my mind. The clues started to click together. The logic started to make sense. And I checked it out with Bill Speck, probably the senior radical historian at that time, sadly deceased, lost poor Bill. And Professor Richard Whatman of the University of St Andrews, who's taken on that mantle of the most senior radical historian in the UK and up there ranking in the world. So they checked my work as I went, and signed it off, as it were, you know, as a valid piece of writing. And I published under the Thomas Paine Society last year, and it's been out there, available for sale all over the world now. I've given several talks here and there: London, Benjamin Franklin's house; Thetford, his hometown; here in the Keep, here in the town. Historical Society is slowly getting out there, but I just got a review in by Jet Connor of the Journal of the American Revolution, where he marks it 9 out of 10, and marks it as filling in that missing bit, or some of that missing bit. Very hard to find these clues, and Richard Whatmore said it described the rise of Thomas Paine, because that was the research question, really. How could someone very ordinary, in 6 short years that he was living in Lewes, come from here as a lowly officer of excise, and just 6.5 years later, he wrote Common Sense, or was jockeying up to write that, which changed the world and caused, almost directly, gave the North American colonists the confidence to go to war.
Hello, I'm Rosie. Shakespeare's very first book is up for sale. It is one of the most important in literary history. It will be auctioned in New York in April by Christie's. But first, Christie's had it on show in London, and they invited me to go and take a look and shoot a video.
Well, the first folio is of particular importance because it actually preserves for posterity 18 of the plays that we would not otherwise have were it not for the publication of the first folio. So it contains 36 plays, and that's essentially his entire output. It's been very well looked after, and we know it has had a fairly stable environment. We know the owner at the beginning of the 19th century, a John Fuller of Devonshire Place, and we assume he kept it in his family for some time, and then it changed hands a few times in the course of the 20th century, but since 1977 it's been at Mills College. We do anticipate interest from both private buyers, private collectors, and institutions. There are parts of the world where there are no copies, and so we would expect there might even be institutional interest from those quarters. But of course it is the crowning glory for any collection, not just book collection, so there will be bibliophiles who would really very much like to have to add to their collections as the crowning glory.
So no pages missing?
It is a complete copy, and that's one of its distinguishing characteristics. One of the other really fun things about this particular copy is that it was chosen for the Festival of Great Britain exhibition in 1951. It was just a few years after the end of World War II, really to lift the national spirit. And so one of the major exhibitions was a book exhibition that was held at the V&A, and this was the copy that was chosen to represent the Shakespeare in the first folio. And so it has its bookplate from that exhibition, the Festival of Britain Exhibition of Books 1951, and it was exhibit 318. I have showed it to representatives of the Globe Theatre, and also Christie's has invited an actor to come and read from it, and this will be on Christie's website soon.
September we met, I could tell by your smile. You hadn't been with a good girl like me in a while. Yeah, you were impressed, couldn't leave me alone. Text me every time that you pick up the phone. And I had control in the driver's seat, but my hands are slipping off the wheel. Now the tables have turned, now I'm up all night. I'm picturing you acting like a fool. I'm on the other side, you're like a full moon, and I'm up all night, howling at you.
Stephen Catlin knows Lewis the best, and he's mayor-elect for Lewis. But he does have a softer side when it comes to keeping Lewis beautiful.
Actually, it worked.
Hello, here we are at what was Pinwell Lane. It ran up through here to the top of the High Street. It became closed off some years ago, and this land is now called Manorial Waste. And we have to thank Every, the great Lewis ironmaster, for bringing the gateway from the Grey Friars Franciscan Priory here. This is the only bit that remains. The Premier Inn is now on the site and had been a railway station before. This is the much vaunted secret garden. Until just a few years ago, it was covered in weeds, brambles, and goodness knows what else. I suggested to the friends of Lewis that it would be better, considering its location behind this ancient gateway, if we could cultivate it a bit. And aided by Jane Tyra and Gillian Ross, I've managed to turn it into this. I'm somewhat embarrassed to say a lot of people keep coming to take photos of it. And I can see there's an overturned pot. I must rescue. But here we are. This is one of the better examples of the fruits of my labours. And I hope it gives you pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, there we go. That was actually the Lewis's Secret Garden with Stephen Catlin. He lovingly tends that, and it is still there. It is still lovely to look at. And if you're going down Friars Walk, if you know the town, then you'll see the old Greyfriars arch from the old priory, or friary, or whatever we call it. And it still is quite lovely, quite beautiful. So that is timely. It is now 10:03, and Max has been prodding me because he's got some stuff that he wants to share with you.
Sorry, yes. Oh gosh.
So we're D-mob happy today. We're D-mob happy.
Wait, what?
D-mob. Oh, you don't know that term?
I've never heard that in my life.
Well, when we had national service in this country, oh dear, that term.
Oh, there we go.
There we are. When we had national service in this country, when you finished it, it was called demobilization. And people put in 2 years of national service, whether they wanted it or not. And they, when they, with a few weeks to go, it was called demob happy. In other words, they couldn't wait to get out, so they did all sorts of things which they wouldn't normally do. Now, Beauty and the Beast. So the Beast says, add to stream. What did you just do?
I just did this.
Oh, right. Okay.
There you go.
there we are. Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning, Keith. Good morning, Max. How are you?
Good.
Well, we would be all right, except it is gloom and bloody doom this morning in Britain. The recession is on the way, according to the papers, and the theme is that the Bank of England didn't do its job, and that the governor, who is actually fairly new to the job, took his eye off the ball and allowed inflation to take control. So I don't know what your reaction to that is.
I just think there's a lot of factors in it that maybe we're not looking at. It's not just, the governor created inflation or the government created inflation. That's just not how it works. It's a lot of it. There's a lot of complexity in terms of interest rates, in terms of money supply, in terms of demand. I mean, we're all buying our faces off out there. Stop. And I know I've said this on the show before. Stop buying so much shit. Can you bleep that out, Max? I'm sorry.
Fine.
We all need to control ourselves. There was a lot of pent up demand after COVID. I know here in the US, they're just buying like crazy. And so, it drives up the price. And there are a lot of factors. I get there's a lot of factors. There's energy prices, there's supply chain prices, there's money supply prices, there's interest rates. But we're all in it together. We all did it. It wasn't just one person who did it. We also have to look inward a little bit. What's our responsibility for it? Why are we driving up our credit cards? Buy. Yeah, stop.
Well,
we all need to take part.
Saying that everybody in this country is to blame except me.
Right. I was about to say that.
With what you said about a second ago, you said government doesn't cause inflation.
Well, no,
I mean,
it's not just the government,
Oh,
is
not
what I'm
just the
saying. It's all of us. So,
Yeah.
oh, it's the governor's fault.
Morning.
Morning.
You
Come on,
know, there's
get
so
the
many
chairman.
factors.
Well, yeah. Well, we were looking today. The UK and the US printed billions and billions of pounds. I mean, literally, that has never gone well in history.
Yeah, they did it because of COVID. They did a lot of it because of COVID. And also
Yeah.
the markets are responsible too. There's a lot of different things that created. But
Melissa,
listen,
we've got a full house today. The old man has turned up.
yay! Hi, Stuart. How are you?
I am very wise in my old age.
Sorry to interrupt. Just carry on.
Don't worry about Keith. We've got his wheelchair outside.
I have my beautiful, well, I guess it's a tea. This is a teacup, right?
Yes.
I just put coffee in it, but I have to. It's from Britain. It's from Britain. Yes. Like, what is it from?
You mean when you came over here and went on your buying spree?
No, I actually didn't buy it. Someone else did.
Oh, right.
Retail therapy.
You see, I created inflation too in Britain. There you go. I got my little bag. I got my little bag in Britain from Sea Salt. I love that shop. So cute.
Now,
Anyway,
I mean, not to be too doom and gloom, but I mean, the newspapers this morning really are. Is that we are in for a bad time.
I love the news. I love the newspapers. They really don't have a clue. They don't have a clue how things work. They just don't. I know. I didn't have a clue when I was in it too. Where did Stuart go?
But one thing I did say was that it would be interested because one newspaper said in its comment that we are in this country we are way behind both the United States and the EU in fighting a recession. And I said, you know, in many ways, as goes the US, so goes the UK. And I wonder how worried you are in that country, in your country, about recession.
I don't know. I'm not that worried. I mean, it happens. Recessions happen, guys. Oh my God, we're all gonna die. No, calm down. So you have some negative growth for 2 consecutive quarters. Oh wow, you know what happens is when if you start talking about layoffs. But here's what's happening in the U.S. We have so many open jobs. They can't find the people. They can't. People are retiring. The baby boomers are retiring like crazy right now, and so you have employers like begging, people. They're begging people to work, and so that's how you're walking into this recession. You're walking into this recession in a very unique way. You had COVID and everything else, but you're walking in it in a very unique way because if you are going to cut jobs, you'll just do it through attrition. You just won't hire people that you can't find anyway. So you're not going to see the long lines of people waiting outside for jobs. It's just probably not going to happen that way. It may be much more. That's why a lot of economists are calling about a very mild recession, not a harsh one. So, I mean, we're still buying. We're still going out and buying a bunch of stuff. They just have to temper their prices. And I want to be honest, there's a lot of opportunism out there when it comes to prices. Well, why does my car dealership have to raise prices 20%? Why? Inflation's not running at 20%. They're just doing it. Oh, it's inflation. Let's just raise our prices for no reason. Yeah, come on. Give me a break, guys. So that's a lot of it too. Yeah. And, inflation's going to also impact people in different ways depending on what you're buying. So like fuel, for example, yeah, well, that's also a different story that has to do with our some things that our president had done in the past. So that it's a little different. But no, I'm not that worried. Bottom line.
Now, this program has a a history of saying things first. Stuart, for instance, was well on top of the crisis that's coming in, energy prices, before anybody else. And last week, you said to us, you were a bit surprised that nobody in this country was worried about China. How is the reaction waking up this morning to find out that China have let off a few fireworks?
Well, I mean, we knew that was going to happen. We knew that was going to happen. I mean, I understand that our House Speaker has a great interest in China and in Asia and democracy. I understand. She visited Tiananmen Square. She's a big champion of it. I just don't think it's the right time for that, to be visiting Taiwan. We're going into World War III, guys. Sorry, I hate to tell you that. We just have authoritarian governments that want to take over democratically elected countries, and this is what we want to do. It's just the way it is. We're gonna have to step up, which Britain always does. So of course the U.S., EU, where are they? They're out to lunch. Guys, wake up.
I'm glad we're out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in your backyard. It's not in my backyard, but we'll fight it because we're going to back you up. That's what we're going to do, and we don't want a bigger monster than we already have out there, and with Russia and China.
Well, there's no good things to be said about Brexit, in my opinion, because first of all, all the workers on the buses are not turning up. Workers in the banks are not turning up. The labour force is really, really shrinking at a fantastic rate of knots. And secondly, all the services.
So wait. The workforce is
not coming back to work.
Well, they might be working remotely, Stuart. I mean, that's what's happening with us. They're working. They are working. They're just working remotely. They're not physically coming back.
Actually,
and some are simply retiring. It's certainly here. I know you've had a baby boom too. They're not coming back because they're retiring. I mean, I can't tell you how many, and I handle all the resignations for my company. They're just leaving because they're done.
Actually, guess what? You'll never guess what's happening this week in this country. This weekend.
What's happening?
Train strikes.
Guys. Oh, Stuart, can you move up a little bit? It's hard to hear you.
Right. Let me. Wait. Just switch.
And we need to see that beautiful face. Come on closer. It counteracts Keith. No. Oh, wait. No, Max, don't go away. Don't go away, Max. Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Stuart represents a pretty fair chunk of people in this country that say, Brexit is the cause of everything. Well, of course, nothing is ever the cause of everything. And he and I would disagree about Brexit, about whether we should have left the EU or shouldn't. I am more concerned that the EU is becoming an authoritarian association. And Mr. Gorbachev, for whom I have a considerable respect. I mean, he was a Russian who was very daring in terms of glasnost and dissembling the old Soviet Union. And his quote is, it is one of the amazing things of his political life to see how speedily European politicians are trying to bring in the old Soviet Union. And that's my fear about the European Union, is that it is going against the grain. The American situation, the Canadian situation, the Australian situation, all other federations have a limited central power and considerable power with the disparate parts. The EU has gone exactly the opposite way. Very strong control in the centre and not much in the members. So that's my big beef about it. Having said that, Stuart is quite right that because we've left the Union, that the workforce has been dramatically affected.
And people's going on their holidays can't get to them. Secondly, another thing about Brexit, of course, it means you cut off all kind of investments in universities. And
I think it as a block, it does. I mean, there's no question that, think about it, it would strategically weaken you against an adversary like Russia. I mean, you guys are now, you're separated. You're not together. You're not a force to be reckoned with anymore.
We're still
And,
members of NATO, Melissa.
I'm sorry?
We are members of NATO.
Well, I understand that, but it's still, there's still a perception that you guys are not together. You're not.
No,
I mean, I'm not a member of the EU. We're not a member of the EU, but we are a member of NATO, certainly. But you're still not together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is geographically, really, because geographically, you are much more exposed. I mean, we're over here. We don't care.
Yeah.
We're fine. We have an ocean to protect us. You don't.
I mean, I agree that I understand why there's that perception, and
perceptions are very important, especially in war.
Years ago, when you and I were doing morning and nightly business report, I would be invited to many banks and so on. And American Express Bank held regular lunches once a month, in which their experts would explain their point of view and why they're taking certain decisions, which was very, very helpful. But I remember on one occasion them talking about the EU, and that the success was based on commonality, in as much as really the whole 26 or 27 members should have the same currency, but also the same language. And that is one of the drawbacks of the EU. It's got so many languages, as opposed to you in the States, 51 states, Canada with 10 provinces. I'm not sure how many are in Australia, but everybody speaks the same language.
Right.
Right.
Six.
I hope they speak English in Italy. Do they speak English in Italy? Please tell me yes.
They'll understand you.
Yeah. I mean, you can get by in any European country, I've heard, on English. I mean, most people do know English when you go abroad.
I mean, I only know the words of love. That's all I know.
Amore
mio. Amore mio bello. So I can introduce my partner.
Do you speak
Amore
any
mio bello.
Do you speak any Italian?
I know all the bad words. I know the words of love. I know some New York Italian.
I know how to swear in French, or it's terrible. Well, I was thinking about Brexit, that we were going to be a wonderful little tax-free, tax-beneficial island bobbing away, and all the stock exchange would move in, or none of that has happened. None of that is going to happen, because they say, right, we now got all the workers, so forth and so on, but the workers are buzzed off.
Yeah.
I mean, look, for example, right, the Romanians used to pick the peas in Lincolnshire. They're not here anymore, right? It's like when I was growing up, when the Trinidadians was brought over in the Windrush, and the men were just to drive the buses, because after the Second World War, there were many things. So the thing about Brexit is it's actually made somehow reduced our labour force.
Well, our Conservative Party, not that long ago, actually raised taxes. They're talking now. There's going to be a new prime minister. They're actually talking about cutting taxes by quite a bit, apparently. But I doubt that's going to happen.
£4 in the P is a lot of money when you call it what the population is. On the other hand, it's going to be an awful flipping long time before people get it. There's not until 2009, is it?
As far as the EU and energy, Stuart, you're the expert in this area.
Yeah.
The perception here, and maybe there's some truth to it, is that they really are basically still funding Russia because of this whole gas situation. How are they
Well,
going to fix this? Why
it's only
would
part of-
Germany decide to make this gas deal with the devil? I don't understand.
No, but the whole thing is, do you know about Nord Stream 2? The EU has blocked that. So that makes Putin's life a lot more complicated.
But where are they getting their gas from? Where's Germany getting their gas, for example?
Well, here's the thing.
Right, listen,
now,
no, hang on a second. Germany is 2/3 dependent on German gas, on Russian gas, sorry. Right, 2/3. France is 25%. No, France is rather low because they've got nuclear. And the thing is about that, so that Putin has to put the prices up to actually get the money in. And
Well, no, he's also put prices up to put pressure on Germany and Europe not to take any action in Ukraine. I mean, he's got his claws on their necks. It's like, why would you expose yourself to that to begin with?
you said a minute ago, where are we getting the oil from now? We're not buying it from the bad guys anymore. We're buying it from the good guys, the Middle East.
What's good about the Middle East, guys?
Yeah, I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, of course you are. Yeah, well, sarcasm is the lowest form of wit, I'm afraid.
But I mean, Stuart's kind of the expert in this area. What's the solution? Because
Well,
we don't want to be. You don't want to be. I mean, on the other hand, though, you don't want to be isolating Russia either. Becomes a pariah state. So I know it's difficult, but we've got this crazy leader in Russia. What are we supposed to do? Support him? The Russian people are so weak. They're such weakened people as a whole that they don't stand up to anything either. Maybe the young people, but the rest of them just kind of just go along. Here, you raise our gas prices 2 cents, we're going to be protesting. We're going to take our guns out.
Oh, no, listen, but sorry, Melissa. There's now a whole movement here, like the poll tax, which echoes the poll tax. There is now do not pay your bills. I mean, the last thing we were doing, they now to put the energy cap every 3 months. That means prices are going to go up to something like £3,800 a year. Now, that means fuel poverty to an extreme degree. And now people are actually going on buses and trains to keep warm. And we're in a situation now for people who don't starve to death, but there's no food, that they're going to freeze to death because people just cannot afford these bills. And that's that. Russia, we only get 6% of our gas from Russia, only 6%.
Well, yeah, that's UK, but I'm worried about countries like Germany.
Okay, but as I say, Germany, back in the day when Fukushima happened, Germans said we're never going to have another nuclear power plant.
Right. So let's just get gas from Lucifer. Nice.
No, but that's although we only got 60%, we're still exposed to the global price.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And until the price comes down, our bills are going to keep going up. But look, what comes around always goes. What turns around comes around. And I think the wholesale price of gas will be introduced soon, because first of all you've got LNG from the gas hole actually, and that is 40% of our gas supply. And there's other ways of getting the gas. It doesn't have to be dependent on Russia. Germany has actually blocked the Nord Stream 2, hasn't it?
But they're still getting a flow from it, and they're still getting threatened by Putin.
Not what on Nord Stream 2 is the one that Putin desperately needs to have to get his gas to Spain and other countries which are not getting it.
Why are they buying it to begin with? They need to find alternatives, no?
Why are they buying gas?
No, why are they buying it from Russia? But can it?
Well, we don't buy any gas from Russia.
No, I'm talking about Europe, not UK.
Oh, Germany, well, it's got no choice because the only other source they've got is coal, and they don't want to use that. And so they've actually sort of said, the price is what it is. And so they can't put that.
No, but it's also high. Who are we supporting when we buy this gas? You know what I'm saying? You are supporting Vladimir Putin.
Look, we
No?
we don't but import.
No, she's talking
No.
about the EU.
I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about the EU, Stuart. I'm not talking about the
Yeah,
UK.
right. So the fact of the matter
What's
is
the
that,
solution in the EU is what I'm saying.
well, well, fairly,
They can't keep doing this. I mean, they can't keep basically.
Right, one is possibly persuade themselves that they should reintroduce nuclear, and that would solve the problem. Okay, might not happen. That's
Right.
one.
Is that
point.
something that you think would be a good idea?
What, nuclear?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've been down mines in Germany where they have storage waste. No, I don't approve of nuclear. I've seen what it can do, and a friend of mine has written a book about the fatalities. It comes into the hundreds, you know, and if all these people are dying of it, we shouldn't have nuclear power stations. But then,
who is dying from nuclear power stations other than when they massively, have a massive breakdown? There's only been 3 massive nuclear disasters.
Are you joking?
What have been the other massive ones?
I will bring in John May's voice. It's only been 3 nuclear disasters.
3 major ones, yeah.
Like that name.
What about all the gas spills?
And 3 Mile Island, the 3 main ones.
Well, they're not here, they're not.
Yeah, because we actually know how to.
Yeah, you guys escaped it. But there has to be a better solution than supporting an authoritarian government. There has to be, and then having this nutcase dictating policy to you. I mean, to the EU. I'm not talking about UK.
We can.
Yeah, the solution to that is possibly energy independence. Do our own stuff. Dig for our own oil. Have our own coal places. Do our own nuclear power stations. We have our own energy independence. But when it goes to Europe, they should also do the same thing.
Well, yeah, because I'm just talking about Europe, really.
There's so many bureaucratic laws in place that it's not as simple.
We don't buy gas from Russia apart from anything else. We get it from Qatar in the Middle East and Norway. 40% is Norway.
But you're talking about 25% with the EU from Russia. Is that correct?
It depends. Germany. No, Germany is 2/3 dependent for its energy mix.
2/3. That's more than 50%.
Oh, really? God, for me.
Well, no,
Wait,
I was asking. I can't count. I'm dyslexic. I'm terrible with numbers.
No, I agree with you. But Russia, Russia's got his arms up against their back because it is the world's third user of fossil fuels.
Right. So what's the solution? What are you going to do? Start World War III? I mean, I'm telling you, Germany's got such a track record. It's unbelievable. They're going to do something stupid.
Germany's got what? Track record of what?
They're going to help to start World War III, and somehow, I don't know how, but somehow.
Well, I don't agree. You see, the thing was, we recently had a guy in here who was in the Navy who told us about how Reagan had put up all the stuff, and under Reagan, all that kind of stuff was sent into the atmosphere.
What stuff?
Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they sent actually some kind of a gadget that actually stopped a ballistic missile in its tracks.
Right. I mean, we can do that. We're fine here. That's the problem. The problem is you all over across the pond there. We have a pond protecting us.
Basically, no one's going to do anything, and we're all going to die.
Yeah.
No, my son is preparing. He'll be fighting the China. He'll be fighting the China side of it because he's entering in about 6 months. He's entering the Navy.
Well, I think China's bath is bigger than its height. Basically, they did this to Vietnam. They said the Paracel Islands were part of China.
Yeah, but this is Taiwan. This is their bigger. This is their bigger baby.
Yeah, well, I'm just giving you an example, Melissa. When I was in Hong Kong many those years ago, this was an annual event by the Chinese, and we are going to get Taiwan back. Well, Hong Kong, we virtually gave it back to them. But the thing about it is, although Russia continues to be a communist state politically, economically is a capitalist state, right? China is a capitalist state, basically.
Basically, yeah, they're a market economy. Yeah.
Well, no, a market economy because they produce a load of the chips, for silicon chips.
Well, that's going to be reversed because we're opening up chip plants here. So.
Well, I said on Wednesday that the Chinese system of communism is exactly how communism is supposed to work every time. Everyone's a serf apart from the party members.
Right, of course. So it's not really communism.
No, it's not real communism.
Actually,
certainly not what Marx had envisioned.
But I hate when people say that. It annoys me so much.
I just to put a slightly different viewpoint on the argument is you actually asked the question, what about people power? Why aren't people putting pressure on our leaders to change? But of course, in Russia, it's basically a peasant society. China is basically a peasant society.
Yes.
So if you like, the other side are peasant societies where the average person, except for the intelligentsia, really don't have a say.
Right.
My view is that what's happened over the last 20 years, I don't know about the United States, I can't talk about that, but here in the UK, we've had it so good, we have got fat and sassy, and we think that anything that gets us out of bed early in the morning is working against society. So in other words, is we just don't have the will to push against things which apparently are threatening us until they are there kicking us in the backside.
That's just human nature.
Indeed, but human nature actually does play a part in why governments actually make decisions.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. The thing with the United States, we're very different. We're like, I don't know, I guess it's almost like you know, your hooligans, your hools, they call them, right? Our country was started by them. We're just a bunch of fools. And we're just not going to, you do one wrong thing, and we're going to take out our guns. I mean, you're done. But I'm a bit on the fence on gun control. I think there's certain things that we need to do to stop the mass shootings, and that we can. We just have to have the will to do it. And that does not mean taking guns away. But it just means limiting who you sell to based on past violent behavior. We just don't have a good enough system that would prevent that yet.
It seems crazy to me that you would allow people who are mentally ill to buy guns. Like,
well, that's also a slippery slope when you talk about categorizing mental illness, because that could be ADHD, that could be anxiety. And so you start to, even our liberal legal organizations will fight you on that, because oftentimes it's those with mental health who become the victims. But what we're talking about here is those who have committed anything a violent misdemeanor, anything of violent nature has to be recorded, and a flag needs to be placed on you in terms of whether or not you can buy, because that would have cut the number of mass shootings in this country significantly, because most of the mass shooters have had some kind of violent episode in the past that just was left unchecked. The Parkland shooting of the high school in Florida, that kid's mother called the police 36 times on him. Why was he able to buy all those guns? Why? So those kinds of things can be stopped. I'm not saying take away guns. That's the one advantage we all have over you. To be honest, if you think about it, a police force is going to think twice about storming my apartment. They're not going to think twice about storming your apartment or taking you over. They will think twice about coming into my apartment. Oh boy, does she have guns? Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Somebody comes into my house and tries to hurt me, they're done.
Yeah, but Melissa, look, you allow a maniac, idiot, half-wit to become president of the United States.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Yes.
You're going to be the best VP ever.
Listen, I don't know as well as you, but I've been to a.
But you only did it once. We do it all the time.
I went hang on a sec. I've been to America quite a long time, many times and so forth. And I believe there's two Americas. There's the South Coast and the East Coast, which are very sophisticated people who know what they're doing. And then there's this whole mass in the center and in the deep South, where they're all peasants. I learned so much more about America when I was.
They're not peasants there, though. They're rebels. They're crazy. I'd be really careful going to the South.
Yes, but look. When the rednecks would listen to Trump because he made false premises.
Right.
Back. He couldn't do that, and all he did is raise the eye. Look at it. When I was in Vietnam, I used to talk to the Buffalo Soldiers and the rednecks, and there was an awful lot of them, and they didn't know where Vietnam was. They didn't know anything. They didn't know anything about anything. They were just cannon fodder. And and then Trump, when he gets into power, he works like Rupert Murdoch does when he newspapers. He panels for the lowest common prejudice. He actually tries to stoke up fears, and all people fairly foolishly believe him. And so a friend of mine said, Trump did get 74 million votes. And I said, well, there are 74 million stupid people in America. You can count on that.
Well, I will agree with you on that, certainly for sure. But I don't think he's got a political shot, quite frankly. He's old and nobody cares about him anymore. He's quiet. Of course, you'll have your diehards, certainly. He's not going to make it into power again. He lost to what is essentially now a corpse. I mean, Biden does nothing. He just sits and like he's watering the garden while the house is on fire. No, there's no way Trump's. I'm sorry.
One of Biden's speeches properly, because I have, and it's terrible. He stumbles over every. He just
on the other hand, listen, Max, I'd rather have a president that kind of does nothing as aside from a president that's incredibly destructive. Trump was destructive. I mean, there were some things that I will say were helpful. I think if it were managed correctly, I think his strong stand just up to some of these authoritarians, he confused them. He confused like Kim Jong-un. He confused Xi Jinping. He confused Putin. Well, he also worshipped Putin, but so I think. But with Biden, it's like he's perceived as weak. Certainly after what happened in Afghanistan, that was insane. I mean, that weakened us tremendously as a country, which is why these authoritarians are doing what they're doing. And then the Crimea annexation, what did Obama do? Oh, sure, go ahead. What do you think? Putin wasn't going to start coming in again? Of course. He perceives a weak president. But he didn't perceive Trump as weak. He didn't even understand Trump because Trump didn't even understand himself. He's just so erratic and confused. And sometimes these world leaders, when you have a leader like that, that's unpredictable and you don't even know where they're coming from because they're nuts, you might stand back a little bit and maybe not be so forward like Putin is being with Biden. He doesn't care. He's going in there, and he's not going to stop at Ukraine. He's not.
Well, actually, Melissa, I disagree with you because he does need the money apart from anything else. Russia's not as rich as China is.
I don't know. This guy's pride is bigger than his wallet. I think he's going to keep going. And I think what happens is when...
Hang on, Simon. Yeah, go on, Melissa.
I think what happens when you have them... there are losses that they're having in Ukraine, but Russia starts to learn from them very quickly and starts to come back. So this is almost like my son would say, this is like a World War II slog. I mean, a World War I slog through, between Ukraine and Russia. But I don't think it's going to stop there. I think he's nuts.
Well, I agree with. I think there's going to be a long
yes
terrorist movement and so forth and so on.
Yeah, absolutely,
because,
I agree.
Well, Russia, he does need the money because Ukraine is the breadbasket of the world. And secondly, you've got to get the oil out if you want to make the real money.
That's what he's planning to do it. He's not stopping.
He is. He's blowing up the bloody tankers. He's blown one up already, hasn't he?
Yep. So and I guess I'm a little frustrated as a whole in America that we don't do anything. But what are you going to do? I mean, I understand you guys are in a much more precarious situation. You're worried more about a nuclear war than we might be. But
it's interesting. Melissa, in the Second World War, okay, the Americans were always the last in.
Right. Because we're not threatened. We're not threatened the way you are. Geographically. Yeah, but it stands to reason. We're often fat and sassy across the pond.
Towns and war and so forth and all the rest of it. Geographical distance doesn't mean a thing. Okay? So
it does psychologically. It does. I disagree with that. I think it does. But we will come and save you. Don't worry.
Well, no, you don't. You won't this time. You won't come into the rescue. I'm afraid.
Yes, we will. We know we will once we've committed to Taiwan. So once China starts, or once he puts his little pinky toe into Poland or wherever he's thinking of going into any NATO country, we'll be there. We're already preparing. We're already there. We're already there. We're there already. We're already there.
So what do you reckon? American troops in Estonia or something? Or
they're circling. They're all over. The Navy's all over it. I know that from being a Navy mom. I know that. I know that from being an Air Force, a captain in our Air Force auxiliary. I know that. Yeah. So we'll be there. We will be there, Stuart. Don't worry. Okay. And I know we'll be fighting right next to you guys.
We've thrashed it to death in many ways, and some very interesting viewpoints have come out, which is what this program is all about: is to try and get a variety of views. And I'm glad that there are four of us here who don't agree with each other.
But I'd like to hear more though from Stuart about energy, and energy and alternatives and things of that nature, because I don't think we even touched on that. We didn't touch. We talked about coal and nuclear and gas, but we're not talking about alternatives, which I think is an important discussion to have. And I know Stuart has that expertise.
Well, you can touch on it, but this is not going to go away. Once you
don't want to talk about alternatives, do you, Keith?
Once you've been to Italy and you've eaten all the pizza that you can and the ravioli and so on and so forth, we shall expect you back in 2 weeks' time to carry on these sort of very feisty discussions. And Friday is really becoming what I would call a feisty day, which is great.
Because here's the thing. I mean, if I can get internet in Italy and figure out my phone, maybe I'll join you. But okay, so here's the thing. What time do you start? It's 9 o'clock your time, right? When I come on.
When you're on holiday.
I'm on holiday.
We're actually shut down. We're shut down for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. So you're on holiday too. Okay, good. Okay.
But to answer your question, is 9 o'clock here will be 10 o'clock in Palermo.
So actually, right now, I got to try to do my math. What time is it? It's 5:45, and you're asking me to add and subtract. All right. So. Oh yeah, so it'll be 10 o'clock. Yeah, I'm afraid I'll be on the beach.
Sorry. I'd like to make one last comment, if you don't mind. You asked me about energy, okay?
Yes.
Right. Now, the reason that we're in such a mess is that there has not, on my own website, there has not been enough investment.
Can you speak up again, Stuart?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. There's not been enough investment in renewable energy to meet our energy mix.
Right.
Okay. For example, last June, to meet the energy mix. Now, when last June the wind didn't blow, you know that the wind power suffers from intermittency, and Boris Johnson asked the Drax coal plants to be reopened because that was his only choice. Because Dieter Helm, a professor of the energy at Oxford and also a government advisor, keeps going on that renewables cannot meet the energy mix. We're going to have a gas fridge. And I've been saying this for ages and ages because I know about it, because I write about it every day. The fact is that the energy mix cannot be met by renewable energy because there hasn't been enough. Now, if you look at nuclear, people are calling it a renewable resource. Well, in fact, it's dependent on uranium, which is not inexhaustible, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, to actually get the energy mixes and to improve climate change, we need more investment, and that's what's necessary.
Right.
Okay.
I agree.
Now, tell us, when are you going to Italy, and what are you going to do when you're in Italy, and when you come back, are you going to bring us some pasta or whatever?
Well, I really can't bring you anything since I'm not coming back to the UK. I'm coming back to New York. But what I'm going to do...
That's not fair.
I'll be there I'll be landing there Monday morning, even though I'll be taking off Sunday. It's a 10-hour flight. And then I'll be there Monday morning. So excited.
I have a question for you, actually.
Okay, no, hang on.
And I'll be there for a week. And as they say about Las Vegas here, whatever happens in Italy stays in Italy.
Yeah. Well, you're going to the Isle of Capri, aren't you?
To visit a friend, but we're going mainly to Ischia, which is off of Naples.
All right. Well, both those are very romantic places.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Hang on, Stuart. Let's just give Melissa a chance to. This is all about people, and we can talk so much about power and so on until what we do is we bore the hell out of our audience. So let's get a little personal here. I want to hear about your wishes for being on the Isle of Capri.
And Ischia. Well, Capri, we're going to have a lovely time with an artist friend of ours, and in Ischia, we're going to be by the pool. We're going to be on the beach. So excited. And then doing lots of other, sightseeing and other unmentionables and things of that nature.
Right.
Nature, lots of nature.
Okay. Now, is these two are champing at the bit? So, Stuart.
Right. Okay. Back in the day at the Financial Times, okay, one afternoon, the word Ischia was ignited a memory for me. Okay, well, the Financial Times, the chairman of Financial Times was Lord Droider, and he was also the chairman of Covent Garden. So, one evening, in the evening on the editorial floor, old Garrett Fitzgerald, Lord Droider, right? He came along and he said, "Well," the editor was called and said, "Well, good evening, Gordon. I'm off to go to Rigoletto." Okay, and the editor rushed in to the economics room. There was no newspaper then, and he said, "Is Rigoletto where the group of 10 is meeting?"
Max,
I'm afraid we're not going to be attending any operas. We'll have to go to those venues at another time. But well, I mean, we certainly have a first class opera here in the city, but which I know my son likes to attend quite frequently.
The item just showed up, what a Philistine Ellis was, but it's so quite funny. Where they're having the group of 10 meeting.
Max?
Yeah.
Mine was just a quick question. When are you next in the UK? Do you know?
I'm going to be next in the UK on December 1st.
December.
See you there.
Well, because Suzanne is actually coming over in September.
Oh, lovely. I heard about that. I think, yeah, she had mentioned that. There's a conference.
Yeah, and she said she might come a day early to see if she can come here.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be great. Then you could just give me a call and we'll all be together. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Oh yes, it is. I mean, actually, these mixing where we have 3 or 4 of us on a day like this are great fun because the 4 very strong-willed people with 4 very different sets of views, and all we need is to put Suzanne in the middle of it, and my God, I'll tell you, it'll be an explosive program.
There's some interest. I mean, Suzanne is a very, very nice person, but if you ask her the wrong question, you're gonna see New York. Okay.
Well, at some point, I do want to have a discussion with you about guns because I have the more controversial opinion in this country that I wish we had better access to guns here. So at some point, I want to have a discussion with you about that.
Okay.
There we are.
I mean, I live in a state that likes to restrict them. And I understand there should be certain restrictions that make sense. But I think that it's a freedom of protection, certainly, I mean, if some burglar came into your home, if some burglar is coming into your home and he knows you're there, that's a violent individual. And you have no means of protection except for maybe, I don't know, a beer bottle.
Well, we also have duty to retreat laws in this country. If you can retreat, you have to.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, I take karate. It's not a bad idea to try to get out of there. But at the same time, you're coming into my home?
Yeah.
Hell no. No, you're not.
You're
not. You might come into my home, but you're not leaving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, did I just say something? Oh, hang on.
I've actually looked up the gun laws in this country, and they're not actually as restrictive as I once thought. I thought like no one could buy guns. You can get any sort of gun. You just have to have the right license.
And it's expensive. It could be expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of background checks. The police have to come check out your house fully first before you can even think about getting a gun.
What are they checking for? Cleanliness? We got some dust bunnies in the corner there. What are they checking for?
I don't know, but they have to. And there's so many background checks. There's so many.
I understand. I don't mind the background checks. I don't mind. If you have a violent past of any kind, we got to red flag you and really be careful selling you a gun. I get that. I don't have a problem with that.
I don't think I can actually own a gun ever because I have something on a record. It's not violent, but it would restrict me from buying a gun.
Oh, see, well, here it really has to be a violent misdemeanor. If you like if you sold somebody weed or something, or you got in trouble for smoking marijuana or something, it's not. That wouldn't red flag us here.
I think
it's more. That would red flag you there, probably. Yeah, I would imagine if your laws are that restrictive. But here it's mainly about violence, any kind of violence, or reports of violence. Shouldn't be owning a gun if you're violent. You just should not. That I agree with. No.
You mentioned earlier that you had a gun. Did you? So. Do you have what? Do you have anything on your record other than parking tickets?
No,
maybe?
never.
Nothing?
I don't even have that. Like I'm a very strict person personally. I'm very law abiding. I mean, seriously, you tell me to wear a mask on a train, I'm wearing a mask on a train. So I will be definitely compliant with laws, and I'm very respectful of police officers. I have a lot of friends who are police officers. So I have nothing on my record, zero, nothing.
Well, we have laws in this country. If you say certain things, you can get a criminal record.
I probably have one in the UK right now. Is that after the show? Is that what you're saying?
Probably. But if you say the wrong thing in this country, you can get what's called a non-crime hate incident. Have you heard about these?
No. What would I have to say?
So it's called a non-crime hate incident, and it goes on your record. So what it is, it goes on your criminal record, but it isn't a crime. But what you did, you said something hateful or derogatory. So we're going to put it on your record so employers can see it.
So hateful or derogatory toward whom? And what would you have to say?
To a minority group, so LGBT people, black people, anything.
Well, I mean, I don't do that. I mean, I don't do that because I just believe a person is a person. You know, show me your character. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what your sexual orientation is because I'm not a creep. Show me your character. Now, if you're a jerk, yeah. But no, I'm very strict with that too. I don't want to hurt anybody.
I know, but in this country, it's quite concerning that if you say something, you can have something be put on your criminal record for wrong thing. That is concerning.
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap it up. And as somebody who's got a criminal record in Russia,
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to ask this question.
I'm sure I do right now after all my discussions about crazy Putin. You're crazy, okay? If you're watching Vlad, you're a nut, and you're going down. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I have to ask before we end the show, what criminal record do you have in Russia?
Because when you go into the country, you're given a little ticket with your passport,
Right.
and you must actually show that wherever you stay and register. And I registered in the hotel, and then was invited to go out of town for a weekend. And I didn't tell the hotel, I didn't tell anybody. And when I got back to the hotel, they wouldn't let me in. And eventually, it was when I was working for Russia Today, they had to get somebody down from the television station to get me back into the hotel, but then the next day take me out and pay the fine and make sure that the criminal record that I got wasn't more than I deserved.
How much was the fine?
I have no idea. I didn't dare ask them, but they said substantial.
Yeah, you have to be so careful there. I don't really have much of an interest in going, so I won't have a criminal record there.
It's always interesting, but
other than bad-mouthing Putin on Mirador.
Melissa, thank you very much for joining us again, as usual. Enjoy your holiday, and we will look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks' time. And hopefully, I hope I can get the old man in here because he always asks awkward questions of absolutely everybody. Feisty.
Yes, I like that back and forth, and I do want to hear more about the alternatives because I believe in them. I believe in alternative.
God bless you. Have a good time.
Bless you too. Bye, guys. Have a wonderful vacation, a wonderful holiday.
And you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Do you know that the wind farm was the first ever in California? First wind farms were in 1975 built in California.
75, really?
Yeah.
That's not that long ago.
I mean, the first in the world.
Yeah.
Really?
That's really not that long ago.
Well, proper wind farms, not just on a roof.
Yeah.
Not like something just.
Right.
It's a very good.
Well, we're gonna wrap up.
Yes. The only thing is, Max, would you go and see if
the bar is open?
No, well, the bar is open, but Shannon is going to join us after the break. Ask her if she's got 2 minutes so we can just come and introduce her.
Oh, right. Okay, thanks. What, are you going to play a little break?
No, just go and see if she's available and come in. Stuart, what's your reaction to this business with China this morning?
Well, it's the same as I said yesterday. I think its bark is bigger than its bite. I mean, I think really, if economically, it might make sense for China, but then, where can you go from there?
Yeah,
I think they're just scaring, like they tried to scare Vietnam. But then you see, a lot of the chips are made there, so there is. I don't think that they would make a military move because of there's so much like chips have been made in Taiwan, right? But they're also been made in China, so it doesn't make any sense to knock out Taiwan or try to get Taiwan back. They might be thinking that way, but that doesn't mean you've got to have an aircraft to frighten the life out of it. And I think that Pelosi is there to do a trade deal, isn't she? She and her husband is what's it? Yeah.
Could you pass me this?
Yeah. Okay.
Could you pass me this? I wanted to show you this story. So I mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. Don't forget that paper's not reliable.
Well, it is a reliable paper. I like it.
Well, yes.
I know
you're right wing enough to read the Daily Mail, but in this case, I'm telling you that.
Now, actually, as you well know, Stuart, throughout the journalistic fraternity, as a paper, never mind its political viewpoint and so on, as a paper, it is considered to be one of the best. And therefore, Paul Dacre wins hands down, or while he was editor, won hands down editor of the year. An editor of the year is also always voted by the other newspapers. But the point is, it's very interesting when you hear people say, "Oh, I wouldn't touch the Daily Mail with a barge pole." It's always because of their political point of view, not looking at it as a newspaper.
Well, when they got very well off because of David English, Paul Dacre, it was going to be a newspaper for women. Basically, it was just to be for
women reading the news.
Absolutely, reading the newspapers, for God's sake. Whatever next?
So I have this story here. One-legged man.
Oh yeah, there we go.
93 years old.
Yeah.
Dies after being tasered and pepper sprayed by police in his care home. That's crazy.
Yes, it is.
Do you know where this took place?
Where?
Where do you have a guess? Where do you think this took place?
I don't know.
Well, it took place in East Sussex.
Really?
It took place in
St Leonard's
on Sea.
Yeah.
In East Sussex. That's like down the road. Like that's so close. You can get a bus down there from across the street.
Well, the Hastings is a bit like Brighton used to be 30 years ago. Lots of one-legged men running back and getting tasered by police.
But yeah, this was the guy. He died after being tasered by the police. I don't quite know what he did I mean, what's he going to do? Get up and run after you? What did he do? Why would you taser him?
Is Shannon able to come and take Ella?
She's not there.
She's not there.
Okay. While she is there, she's just busy.
Right. Okay. Is that her? No? Okay. All right. Well, we'll say goodbye then, because it is 4 minutes past 11, and as you point out, that starts drinkies time.
Open the time.
The bar is always open at Mirador, and I have to say, Stuart, that one of the things that we actually have done is brought back the good old Fleet Street tradition. Is that a lot of our business is done over a beer and a glass of wine.
Well, listen, when back in the day, before your time, Max, you see the Crown Courts over there?
Yeah.
All the press used to be in here. And the women's a big, they used to get pissed as rats over here. And once when there was a murder trial or something and so forth, they go mad and drinking away. And then when the verdict comes out, they're so pissed they can't remember which way the verdict went.
When was that? Was that a long, long time ago?
The 70s.
Oh.
But that is peculiar. Why would you say so, a bloody man with one thing?
I don't know, because the police. I don't know.
Perhaps he was annoying the police.
Yeah, I don't think you get tasered for being annoying.
Why not? Well, that happens.
I'm sure it happened in this case, yeah, but like.
Well, everybody who protests is being annoying to the police.
93 years old.
He looks like a woman, actually. No?
Come on. It seemed that.
He's one of your self-identified.
Right. Okay. let's here is something, just a reminder of the next few days, after a couple of weeks. Mirador Television is taking a holiday break from Monday the 7th to Monday the 22nd. We'll be on holes, dipping our toes in seas and shores unknown, having hopefully a rollicking time until we return in August, the 22nd of August, with new programs, new ideas, new people. Still broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewis. We look forward to joining you again after the holiday break. Until the 22nd of August, toodle toodle pip. Okay, so that's it for this week. That's it for a couple of weeks. We will be back. This dreadful team that I've got here will be back to taunt you and prompt you into, shall we say, indiscreet comment. And generally speaking, stir it up. And I hope that that's what we're doing for you, is stirring it up. By the time you finish with us, you will have heard every unfortunate viewpoint that comes down the pike. For the moment, with the headlines of recession is around the corner, we'll say a cheerio, toodle pip, and we will very quickly disappear. So say goodbye, gentlemen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.